or any other comments in the 4130 executive line? Tom?
In the job description for maybe the assistant, could the minutes of the, like attending the select board meetings and being responsible for the minutes be a part of it? I looked at how far back they go, you know, they haven't been approved or whatever. I wonder if that could be someone's job.
I think Sean had said that part of the clerk's job will be to take meeting minutes and get them posted timely. Any other questions in 4130? Okay. I'm going to move down to 4140. Elections, regular and vital statistics, town clerk budget. The summary was expenditures of $65,969. The budget was $74,000. The year came in under $8,068. The proposed budget is $74,659, or $622 more than the 2024 budget. Election expenses were up, and several of the other budgets were down. I believe the largest expense on the election is the iPad.
Yeah, the tablet and the programming of the tablet, which is due to a change in the law from last July. We have to have the accessible voting system available for our local election, where we haven't had to do that before. And we're also getting the supervisors of the checklist a new computer this year, so it's their year.
Are there further questions from the board? Budget committee, sorry. Any further questions on that line item, 4140? Great, moving on. Line item 4150, finance, admin, and tax collection. The past year's expense was $59.44. The budget was $82.70, coming in under budget at $2,325. Proposed budget is $8,370, which is a $100 increase from the 2024 budget. Pretty line item specific. Small upgrade on a software expense.
Their annual fee.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public on 4150? Great. 4152, reevaluation of property. Let's go to page 2 for the summary. $41.52 reevaluation property expense was $46,695. The budget was $44,228. The overages was $24,067. The proposed budget is $22,084. I believe there's also a warrant article on that.
So, well, there's two things. One, the reason for the decrease is there was a cyclical reval that was done during the 2024 year. So that cost $25,000. It wasn't, it was something we had to budget for. In the past, there was a capital reserve account, but what ended up happening was the last time the money was taken out to pay for the reval, they zeroed out the account without putting any money back in. So after a year, the account disappeared in PETA. So there is a warrant article that we're going to pass, which we'll go over later on, where we're going to recreate that capital reserve account so we start putting money away. So we'll basically pay for 20% of the reval each year so that we won't have that yet. It's gone up. You know, the previous 5 years ago, the reval was 20,000. This year, this time it's 25, so it's probably gonna be around 30. So
Thank you. Is there any questions on that category?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For abatements, when you have a reevaluation, there's a process where taxpayers can file for abatements. Has there been any money set aside for refunding over those abatements?
Yeah, it's in the, we took that into account when we took out money from the unreserved fund balance to offset taxes.
Mhm.
We left ourselves with about $50,000 cushion.
Okay. Okay.
That answer your question, ma'am? Okay. Okay, next line item is 4153, legal expense. 24 actual expense was $20,573. The budget was $15,000. It was over budget by $5,573. The select board has proposed $10,000 budget or $5,000 less budget. Budget committee have any comments or questions? Public, Tom?
Yes, Tom Seymour, Newchester Road. I'm just curious, if I could address John directly. Could you explain the rationale behind the $10,000 number? I'm just looking historically, and I know from sitting on the select board myself, how things can get a little out of hand very quickly when it comes to legal expenses. I'm just curious how we overspent last year by 5. This year we're going to go 5 less than we had budgeted last year. So what's the sense of?
So, we think we've closed out a couple of big cases and big things that were causing the increase in legal fees. You also, the way I look at it, you struggle with, if you budget every line for every reasonable expense, we're gonna end up with a huge budget increase that we may or may not spend the money. I mean, it gets to the point where at some point the selectmen have to start managing the budget. So if something happens, we do have a capital reserve account with $10,000 for litigation, if we get into that, so. I mean, we went back and forth on that.
You were originally proposing 5, right? I can't do anything. I
No,
suggest,
I think 10 was what we always put it with, we always,
But
I had suggested higher and on par with last year's. But we'll talk about that at our recommendation. No, it's not. Any further questions on the legal line item? Thank you. 4155, personal admin line item. The expense was $14,561.82. The budget was $15,314. The town was under budget $752. The proposed budget is $16,672 for an increase of $1358, which is about a 9% increase. With the one line item being workers' comp insurance. I don't think the select board has much control over the workers' comp premiums. It's a high percentage increase for a workers' comp, but it's,
But that's average. That's been hitting on companies about that.
yeah, there's not a lot
You
that
can do
towns
about
can
it.
do as a collective. Committee, any questions on, public, any questions on that rate? Okay. Next line item is 4155, personal admin. Sorry, it's planning and zoning. So under planning and zoning, 4191. The expense was $1,163, the budget was $6,807. Planning and zoning came under budget $5,643. The proposed budget is $53.95, dropping the budget by $14.12. with, again, zoning, dropping legal proposed expense by $1,500.
In 2023, we kind of bolstered that up because we didn't know if we were going to get a legal challenge by Green Acres Woodlands for the gravel pit, so we'd increased that. The $4,000 is kind of, that's what has been budgeted for several years prior.
Any questions from the committee on, any questions for the public? On planning and zoning. 4194, general government building. So the expense rate was 23,074. The budget was 23,688, just under budget by 593. The proposed budget is 23,297, or $371 less. Looks like there was some sound expense control on that line item, and the select board is keeping that commitment. Any questions for the committee on that line item? Any questions for the public on 4194, general government building? Okay. 4195, cemeteries. So last year's expense was $66.50. The proposed budget last year, was $64.50. It's $200 over budget. The proposed budget is $11,400, which is $49.50, of which $10,400 is mowing. I believe that increases with the acceptance of the other cemetery. And last